A cult classic wouldn't do Back to the Future justice. Your parents may be among the many generations whose hearts have been captivated by this time-traveling mythology. A few tasty behind-the-scenes secrets were recently disclosed by the cast, but not even the biggest fans know about them. The beloved trilogy gains a new dimension with these disclosures, which include everything from hidden character idiosyncrasies to on-set surprises. It is time to experience Back to the Future like never before by hopping between the past and the future. A guide to the development of a time machine. One of the most common mental pictures that most people get when they hear the phrase Back to the Future is of a gleaming silver DeLorean racing down the street at high speed, its tires leaving flaming tracks as it blasts into another time and place. It has achieved cultural icon status on par with the show's titular protagonists. The DeLorean wasn't always the intention, though, and fans may have overlooked this fact. Even die-hard fans may be surprised to learn that the time machine's original design was drastically different and far less showy. The time machine wasn't even a vehicle in the original script drafts. Originally, it was planned to be used as a time chamber. The idea of putting the time travel apparatus in a refrigerator even came up at one point. A refrigerator, indeed. The original plan was for the protagonists to board this massive time machine. It was more like something out of a 1950s B film, a science fiction laboratory. This may have made sense in the context of science fiction cliches, but it failed to capture the spirit of the film's ambitious plot points. On top of that, it wasn't truly functional. In order to build up time travel adventures, how would one go about moving a refrigerator to different locations? At this point, the concept of mobility began to significantly alter the course of the film. Bob Gale and Robert Zemeckis, the film's producers, knew that a static object like a refrigerator wouldn't provide motion to the plot. Envision Doc Brown attempting to transport a fridge to a clock tower that was struck by lightning. I agree, it lacks that certain excitement. They were in search of an interesting, mobile, and, ideally, adolescent interesting object. It in the time machine. In the flesh, the DeLorean DMC-12 stood out much more. Its distinctive gull-wing doors, low frame, and stainless steel body gave it a futuristic appearance. Assuming it hadn't already been scrapped by the time production began, it appeared as though it could transcend time even without the addition of special effects. It was seized upon by the filmmakers. It was more than simply a matter of taste. It was also about giving the robot some character. They elevated the time machine beyond its plot device status by transforming it into an automobile. It emerged as an independent figure. A number of spectacularly memorable scenes were made possible by the decision to use the DeLorean. The 88 miles per hour speed, the fire trail, and the luminous flux capacitor within the car all contributed to the enchantment and visual intensity of the moment. With the DeLorean, time travel became exciting, thrilling all at once. To a younger demographic that valued excitement over technical feasibility, that car was a major selling point for the film's premise. Almost everyone would agree that the DeLorean is an essential part of Back to the Future. Now that it's integral to the film's plot, the idea of a refrigerator performing time travel seems ridiculous. However, it is the charm of being creative. Thoughts develop over time, frequently for the most part. Believe it or not, Back to the Future wasn't an immediate smash in production. Now, let's investigate that astounding fact. The first turndown. There were some bumps on the road to the big screen for the picture. The concept was novel, intriguing, and unlike anything else at the time. It was proposed by Robert Zemeckis and Bob Gale. The studios, however, were confused. Time travel, eccentric characters, and a genre-bending mix of science fiction and comedy were all part of the plot. Many of the executives were anxious about this. Nothing so out of the ordinary could they sell. Zemeckis and Gale took the idea to other studios, but most of them said no. Some of them believed it was too strange. Some weren't satisfied since they thought it was too advanced for children. Some believed the characters, particularly the younger Marty McFly, wouldn't connect, while others thought the necessary special effects would be too costly or impossible to do successfully. Additionally, the film's tone was deceptive. It accomplished the difficult accomplishment of blending fun with serious issues. This script felt like a risk to the studio, which usually prefers safer choices. A small group of influential people, including producer Steven Spielberg and director Robert Zemeckis, were the ones who kept the project afloat. Just having Spielberg's name attached gave it a lot of authority and respect. He encouraged its production after seeing the story's potential, which prompted Universal Pictures to take a risk. Universal still wasn't convinced, but with Spielberg on board, they were able to give the film the go-ahead. The fate of Back to the Future's development was hanging in the balance if that push hadn't been applied. The fact that the film almost didn't happen is mind-boggling. It has now become a classic, cherished by many, and the inspiration for many sequels, products, and feelings of nostalgia. The road ahead, however, was far from smooth or assured. A story that many rejected became one of the most memorable movies ever filmed thanks to tenacity, vision, and a touch of Hollywood magic. Fox's demanding schedule. Director Robert Zemeckis and producer Bob Gale always wanted Michael J. Fox, who would later immortalize the part. But he had a long and winding route to his casting. He played the role of Alex P. Keaton, a conservative teen who talks a lot, on the hit TV show Family Ties, which was airing at the time. At first, the show's producers were hesitant to let him go, worried that their hit series would suffer without him. Consequently, Fox had little choice but to temporarily turn down the film offer. Actor Eric Stoltz, renowned for his dramatic intensity, was cast as Marty McFly in Fox's absence. Production continued for a while with Stoltz at the helm. Nevertheless, as the project progressed, even though Stoltz had great acting chops, the directors couldn't get the humorous timing and carefree spirit they had imagined from the role. The ability to play a relatable and charming youngster perplexed by time travel, that is, Marty, required a blend of seriousness and humor. The tough call to recast the role was finally made. The filmmakers wasted little time taking advantage of Fox's availability when the Family Ties shooting schedule changed. Fox accepted the post despite the extremely hard schedule it would entail. He was busy shooting Family Ties during the day and playing Marty McFly in Back to the Future at night. He raced from set to set for months on end, getting only a few hours of sleep each night, all the while relying on caffeine, adrenaline, and an unyielding dedication to his profession. Fox kept her cool under pressure and gave a performance that would go down in cinematic history as a landmark performance, despite the demanding nature of the job. Crucially, Michael J. Fox has been very forthright about how he feels about Eric Stoltz and the peculiar circumstances surrounding his casting. Instead of holding any animosity, Fox has shown adoration and respect, thanks to Stoltz's hard work and skill. Because of the professionalism with which both actors approached a difficult circumstance, they have now grown to respect one another. Replacing a talented actor like Stoltz added extra strain to an already in-motion role, which Fox has frequently admitted. But his appreciation for the chance remained constant. To play Marty McFly was an incredible opportunity, he knew, and it would shape his career and touch the hearts of moviegoers for years to come. Cinematic magic was the outcome of Fox's exhausting dual commitment. Thanks to its groundbreaking combination of science fiction with touching narrative and humor, Back to the Future exploded in popularity. Many thought Fox's performance was spot on. Blends comedic timing with emotional depth, adeptly portraying the astonishment and confusion felt by a teenager transported to a bygone era. His chemistry with Crispin Glover, Christopher Lloyd, and Leah Thompson made for an unforgettable and believable ensemble that the audience related to right away. Both his colleagues and the general public took note of Fox's efforts. His ability to maintain high-quality performance in two prominent roles was a source of amazement to those inside the industry. In an unusual occurrence, he was able to achieve success in both film and television with his portrayal of Alex P. Keaton and Marty McFly. This was a pinnacle of Fox's career and an indication of his perseverance and dedication to his craft. Despite the many personal and professional obstacles that Fox has had to overcome over the years, most notably his persistent fight with Parkinson's disease, his legacy will always be based on that early model of bravery, modesty, and love of storytelling. Fox isn't finished yet. The target this time is an on-screen co-star. Thomas's and Michael's early disagreements. The production of that film wasn't always as seamless as it appears on screen, which is something that fans often fail to notice. Casting changes, creative differences, and unforeseen friction among cast members occurred behind the scenes. Among the more unusual tales to emerge from that era is the troubled beginning of Leah Thompson and Michael J. Fox's relationship. As of right now, they appear to be the ideal movie couple. The film stars Fox as the heroic and endearing Marty McFly and Thompson as his mother Lorraine, who is in her teenage years and finds herself in a highly uncomfortable situation as a result of some time travel mishaps. However, things weren't so sunny and bright when Fox initially showed up on set. The initial lead actor of the picture, Eric Stoltz, is partially to blame for the tension. Months prior to Fox's involvement, Stoltz had already been cast as Marty McFly. During the early days of filming, he was essentially Marty, and the crew even recorded weeks of footage with him. Cast from the start as Lorraine, Lea Thompson had made friends with Stoltz after starring opposite him for a long time. He took the role seriously, maybe even too seriously. Stoltz, whose method acting style was well known, brought a great deal of intensity and drama to the role. That level of commitment can be truly inspiring, particularly in an emotionally taxing field like acting. Since the directors believed Stoltz wasn't contributing the correct tone to the picture, his dismissal came as something of a shock, particularly to people like Thompson who had developed a close relationship with him. The slight animosity on Thompson's part seemed understandable. A friend's dismissal wasn't the only thing that happened. It was because someone she didn't quite respect had taken his position, and she didn't appreciate that at all. Michael J. Fox had immense fame in television. Because of the bonds of blood, television and movies were still seen as two entirely distinct industries in the early 1980s. Hollywood regarded movie stars as superior, while television actors frequently had to battle for respect. Sense of superiority and emotional distance were instantly formed when Thompson confessed in interviews that she felt herself as a movie star and Fox as just a TV personality. Although she was neither aggressive or disrespectful, they did have a clear barrier in the beginning. The fact that the tension on set persisted from the unexpected casting change did not help matters. There was a lot of pressure to reshoot scenes fast, keep to the timetable, and produce a successful film. Fox was frequently fatigued and hardly able to keep his energy up because he was filming both Family Ties during the day and Back to the Future at night. Regardless of the pressure, Fox introduced a new vibe to the set that would shape the picture. His effortless charisma, keen comedic instincts, and magnetic presence began to change the production's dynamic. Thompson was perplexed by him at first. It took some getting acclimated to Fox's lighter, more fun tone because she was accustomed to Stoltz's more serious take on the character. Something clicked, though, as they continued to film scenes together, especially the now famous 1950s scenes in which Lorraine awkwardly flirts with Marty. Thompson started to see that Fox's comedy wasn't merely comical, it was essential. He possessed a remarkable talent for making even the most ridiculous events feel deeply relatable, and his timing was spot on. The film's entire tone changed. As optimally as is feasible, a spark and lightheartedness were introduced where Stoltz had introduced gravitas. Ultimately, that was the perfect addition to the plot. As time went on, Thompson's view of Fox shifted substantially. Not only did she grow to respect his skill, but also his friendliness and professionalism. He maintained his humor and humility despite being in a tight position, showing up late to a project, working crazy hours, and bearing the weight of a huge motion picture. In retrospect, Thompson has recognized her own complicity in the escalating tensions of those early days. She has been forthright about how her biases and her devotion to Stoltz affected her judgment. This level of candor is unusual and welcome, working in a field that doesn't necessarily promote introspection of that nature. Awkward, sweet, funny, and bizarre. That is the perfect description of their scenes together. Without their transformation from awkward co-stars to mutual admirers, none of it would have been possible. The initial strained nature of their professional connection blossomed into something more substantial over time. A general idea of what was required for the picture and a firm will to see it through. Although they weren't quite best friends before filming began, Lea Thompson and Michael J. Fox became inseparable by the conclusion of the credits. Lloyd was first hesitant. When filmgoers think of Doc Brown, the untamed scientist with electric hair, a lab coat, and a voice that could go from whisper to roar in an instant, they often imagine Christopher Lloyd. His interpretation of Doc is a classic. But listen up, because this is about to shock a lot of fans. The role of Doc Brown was nearly passed over by Christopher Lloyd. He almost abandoned the idea before it had even had a chance to prove itself. Lloyd has been performing for some time at that point. He had established a strong career in movies and television and had garnered accolades for his theatrical performances. His breakout role was undoubtedly as the zany Reverend Jim on the smash comedy Taxi. Further, he had made cameo appearances in more serious films, such as One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. He wasn't exactly in a state of dire need of employment when the script for Back to the Future initially came to his desk. Rehearsal notes reveal that Lloyd was skeptical after a cursory review of the script. Something about it didn't quite click, maybe because of the time travel plot, the character's excessive behavior, or simply the timing. The script was actually chucked aside by him because he decided it wasn't his style. For a split second, he was prepared to reject the film trilogy that would go on to become one of the most adored in cinematic history. It's hard to fathom now. Fortunately, Lloyd changed his mind. Perhaps he took a second look at the writing. Perhaps a loved one urged him to take another look. Regardless, he dove more into the novel and began to appreciate its originality and creativity. This isn't your average Hollywood plot. A teenager inadvertently uses a time machine constructed from a DeLorean to go 30 years into the past. He was swayed by more than simply the plot, though. Lloyd was swayed to accept the role in large part by the opportunity to collaborate with director Robert Zemeckis. Zemeckis had a reputation for daring, innovative storytelling even before he became a big name. Lloyd sensed that this was going to be more than your run-of-the-mill silly comedy. It was emotional. There was a thrill about it. Plus, that could have been a totally novel idea. Lloyd went on to say that he was deeply moved by Zemeckis' enthusiasm and inventiveness. And that was the deciding factor in the end. It was immediately apparent that Lloyd had chosen wisely once filming commenced. With unwavering dedication, he brought to life the scientist Doc Brown, who was smart, little disturbed, and utterly endearing. Without meaning to, he had immediate and electric chemistry with Michael J. Fox, who portrayed Marty McFly. They formed a captivating duet that would win over fans all over the globe. Lloyd's interpretation of Doc Brown as a sympathetic mentor and crazed genius became the trilogy's emotional center. Time travel wasn't the only thing he did. He constituted the very essence of the journey. In hindsight, it's nearly hard to picture someone other in the role of Doc Brown. It's as if Back to the Future was tailor-made for Lloyd. His acting is so integral to the plot. Still, it was on the brink of not happening at all. The course of cinematic history might have been drastically altered if Lloyd had remained true to his first instinct and declined the part. It's a captivating what-if scenario that shows how near we are to obliterating extraordinary opportunities. He made a career-defining decision when he decided to give the idea another go. Getting Back to the Future became an enormous success, inspiring not one but two more films in the franchise as well as a cartoon, a computer game, and a musical for the stage. Because Christopher Lloyd chose not to discard that script, Doc Brown has endured and grown into one of cinema's most iconic and adored characters. Do you recall Jennifer? Actress Melora Hardin was originally cast in the role. The amount of changes made to the film before it became the beloved classic that it is today is something that many fans are unaware of. Why Jennifer Parker was cast. The casting of Marty's girlfriend Jennifer Parker is one of the most intriguing behind-the-scenes storylines. Despite her fame, Claudia Wells wasn't the original casting option for the part. In those days, Melora Hardin was one of the most promising young actresses. They thought she would be perfect for the role of Jennifer because of her background in television and movies. She is beautiful, intelligent, and could hold her own opposite the film's original star. Stoltz, Eric. Yes, I understand. Several weeks of filming had already taken place before Michael J. Fox became famous for his portrayal of Marty McFly. Eric Stoltz had been cast in the role. Everyone was under the impression that production was proceeding according to plan when Stoltz was cast as Marty and Hardin as Jennifer. However, the vibe became increasingly off-kilter as production progressed. I am Stoltz. played Marty with an intensity that was out of place in the lighthearted, action-packed science fiction comedy, because to the actor's more dramatic and serious acting style. After much deliberation, producer Bob Gale and director Robert Zemeckis ultimately decided to cast Michael J. Fox, their original choice, instead of Stoltz. Making the call wasn't simple. It causes a huge disturbance to recast a lead actor a few weeks into filming. However, they were aware that a new vibe was required for the film. Everything changed when Fox joined the team. The writing was tailor-made for his charisma, intelligence, and comic timing. All of a sudden, the movie started to feel like their vision. However, a domino effect followed that change. Additional casting choices have to be reevaluated. Melora Hardin, alas, was swept up in that title surge. Hardin's firing was unrelated to her abilities or performance. She was supposedly pulling her weight. However, she appeared substantially taller when compared to Michael J. Fox, who stands at approximately 5 feet 4 or 5 feet 5 inches. Given Marty and Jennifer's romantic relationship, the directors were concerned that this would appear awkward on screen. Overemphasis on outward appearances has a long tradition in Hollywood. In this particular instance, height was more important than anyone could have anticipated. The casting mismatch ultimately led to Hardin's dismissal from the production, despite her obvious acting chops. Claudia Wells, who had previously auditioned for the role and was shorter than Fox, was cast to replace her. It might be quite terrible to be cut from a big picture like Back to the Future, particularly if filming has already begun. An acting career-defining role like that may catapult many young performers to stardom. However, Melora Hardin deserves praise for not letting it get her down. Rather, she maintained a consistent work schedule and, over the years, amassed an extensive and varied body of work. Indeed, her outstanding television performances propelled her to stardom in her own right. She is most known to modern audiences for her role as Jan Levinson, the famously unstable business executive whose relationship with Michael Scott she portrays on The Office. She gained a new legion of admirers and demonstrated her immense talent and adaptability in that part. On the popular series Monk, she played Trudy, the protagonist's late wife, in a recurring role, as well as in a number of other film and television productions. The longevity of Hardin's career is quite astonishing. She left her imprint on Hollywood even though she was passed up for a role in a groundbreaking 80s film. The feeling of being fired from Back to the Future has been something she has discussed in interviews. She seems unbitter even though she says it was disheartening at the time. But she has woven it into her story, using it to show that even when things don't go according to plan, it doesn't mean you can't achieve success. Back to the Future was significantly impacted by the casting changes that occurred throughout production. As Marty McFly, Michael J. Fox gave a whole new energy, and Claudia Wells was fantastic as Jennifer, playing off of him. The get-together to commemorate the 40th. Wow, it's hard to think that Back to the Future debuted on the big screen 40 years ago. Talking about a time-traveling film makes it seem like the years pass by in a flash. The core ensemble gathered at Fan Expo New Orleans in 2025 to celebrate this remarkable milestone, giving fans and film enthusiasts the ultimate pleasure. Celebrities such as Huey Lewis, Christopher Lloyd, Michael J. Fox, Lea Thompson, and Thomas F. Wilson gathered for a throwback bash. The atmosphere was electric, like stepping into the 1980s with a twist from the year 2025. The inimitable Marty McFly, played by Michael J. Fox, was just as charming and astute as ever. Some amusing anecdotes from the set were revealed by him, much like the daring stunts and frantic shooting schedules that added excitement to the experience. As he recounted Marty's early days, it became clear to everyone why the character was and is legendary. Lorraine McFly's voice actor, Lea Thompson, spoke on the film's influence on her career and the odd nature of seeing her work from so long ago having such a profound effect on the world today. She continued by saying it was great delight to see the cast again and relive the scenes that seemed like they happened yesterday, even though it had been a long time. One of the most memorable parts of the reunion was seeing Christopher Lloyd, the original Doc Brown. It seemed as if his enthusiasm and commitment to the role had never faded. He waxed nostalgic about the story's blend of heart, humor, and science fiction thrills, as well as the difficulties of portraying such a peculiar and talented scientist. He seemed sincere in his admiration for the film's devoted audience and the ways in which it has influenced subsequent generations. Thomas F. Wilson, better known by his stage as Biff Tannen, added a mischievous, comical touch to the occasion by making jokes about how much fun it was to portray the villain and how he is constantly being recognized for it. He has hilarious anecdotes about collaborating with the staff and cast, and revealed a glimpse into the strong connection they all have. Afterwards, Huey Lewis came along. Yes, the Huey Lewis of Power of Love fame, who discussed how the song became synonymous with the movie. He playfully mentioned his surprise at the track's meteoric rise to fame and his immense gratitude for being a part of something that touched the lives of so many. Like a big family gathering, the whole reunion had that feel to it. As they reminisce, share stories, and express their heartfelt gratitude for the life-altering film. However, the gathering was much more than just nostalgia. Timeless themes like as friendship, bravery, and the idea that our decisions determine our fate were also discussed by the cast and viewers. Those messages continue to strike a chord, even after all these time. The film's obvious success is due to its unique combination of comedic elements, heart, and science fiction adventure. Similar to Marty's time-traveling DeLorean automobile. And the New Orleans crowd was a living testimony to that. There was a wide range of ages represented, and each one offered a unique perspective on the film's impact. A fitting tribute to the legacy of Back to the Future was held at the 40th anniversary reunion. Looking back wasn't the only thing. Recognizing a film that has been and will be an inspiration to many was the main focus. Some movies don't merely endure. Seeing the original cast reunited and reminiscing brought a grin to my face. In it, they flourish. It seemed like we were all a part of something truly historic in the